For as long as I can remember, the sea has been the environment that intrigues me most. I couldn't imagine living beyond its reach. The life that exists in the ocean has become my life, and whales my greatest passion of all. I've longed for a personal encounter with them, and recently I was invited to join a scientific expedition to study the humpback whales of Australia. But the day before our tall ship sailed, there was a disturbing incident. A young humpback, confused by shark nets, had stranded himself on a local beach. There it floundered helplessly in the shallows. A few people were on hand at the time. They kept the animal's back wet to prevent it from dehydrating. I arrived soon after it, and by that time, a small crowd has already gathered. We all push and struggle to keep the whale pointing out to sea, because if the surf rolled him over, his blowhole would be immersed and he would drown. His big eye watches us placidly, as if he understands our good intention. This immature humpback is already enormous, and when fully grown, he'll weigh as much as 8 large elephants. To see such a creature in this predicament is distressing to all of us. But despite that, the chance to actually touch this whale is a rare thrill. The whale tries to move his body in time with the waves, and we all work to his rhythm. Within an hour, there are dozens of onlookers and eager rescuers. We're hoping the high tide will provide a natural escape, but when the tide does come, it isn't high enough. The way this gentle animal watches us just adds to our sense of frustration. All we can really do now is to drape wet sheets over his back to keep his sensitive skin from getting sunburned.
Yeah, what's happening is the tide's going out and the whale's actually digging a hole for himself.
The hole will help float his heavy body. The whale can't support its own weight out of the water. As I watch this young animal heaving in the surf, I can see that every breath is depleting his energy. Our community effort is heartwarming, but I still feel apprehensive, knowing what lies ahead for this half-grown whale, even if we do save him here. His last meal was 3 months ago in Antarctica. Now he's trying to complete his 5,000-kilometre swim back to that feeding ground before the food from his fat reserves is used up. Had this whale not run aground, he'd be migrating in a group or pod of up to 6 whales, heading south from Australia to his feeding grounds in Antarctica. Humpback whales are among the largest animals on Earth, yet they feast on one of the smallest, the shrimp-like krill. If the stranded whale ever does manage to complete his journey to Antarctica, he'll feed voraciously all summer long, storing enough energy in his blubber to fuel him for the rest of the year. But first, he'll have to survive until morning, and the tide will be favourable. After dark, more people arrive by the minute, all prepared for a sleepless night of intensive care. Entire families have abandoned their other commitments to be at the whale's side. And the common spirit uniting us is something I've never experienced so strongly. It's surprising how much effort and discomfort we can happily endure when given a good enough reason. Some bring blankets, others supply hot drinks. And before dawn, yet another team of professional rescuers arrives with more equipment. My urge is to stay, but now that the whale is in good hands, I decide to keep my appointment with the scientific whale expedition. At first light, I say my goodbyes and depart, feeling a fresh regard for humanity. After the all-night vigil, I feel eager for this dawn rendezvous with the team of whale researchers. The expedition will be studying the behaviour of the southern humpback whale. I appreciate projects like this which look beyond the visual beauty of the whales to help us understand their habits and their needs. It's an exotic experience to board this authentically restored vessel, the Anna Christina. The 100-year-old topsail ketch is alive with rustic rhythms, age-old sounds and earthy aromas. A tall ship is ideally suited for this voyage. Her silent sailing creates no disturbance to the whales, and her masts are perfect for whale spotting. On this cruise, no one is exempt from hard labour. The camaraderie is high, and we all share a love of the sea and of whales. I can't wait to scale the rigging and get my first view from the crow's nest. Here I can see clearly the entrance to Platypus Bay, a sheltered refuge on the whale's migratory route off the east coast of Australia. This is our destination, where we hope to observe the behaviour of the southern humpback whale at close range. Where the South Pacific Ocean currents hit Fraser Island, they form the gently sloping sand bottom of Platypus Bay. This provides calm waters and a good resting place for weary whales. Fraser Island shields the bay from extreme weather conditions, and it's here that our research team has observed the whales behaving in their most playful and inquisitive way. We use an ultralight aircraft to efficiently scan the bay. The ultralight was chosen for its low noise level, and it flies high enough to avoid disturbing the whales. Part of the allure of these animals is their unpredictability. The herd migrates down the coast in waves or pulses of pods, and sometimes days can go by with no whales to be seen. Today is one of those days. The ultralight pilot radios the Anna Christina.
Nothing so far, Ross. Over.
Roger, mobile, over.
I'll have a look to the north. Over.
Yeah, Romeo, Anna Christina standing by.
My thoughts go back to that young whale stranded on the beach. I just saw him this morning, but now that seems like the distant past.
Brisbane Radio, this is the Anna Christina.
I call the mainland to find out how the rescue is going, and they give a mixed report.
500 people here anyway, even with the bad weather. Most of them are ready for help. Over.
But the whale's predicament has worsened. He's struggling under the full weight of his body, and his breathing is laboured. And now, sand threatens to choke him. So many people want to get close to the whale that crowd control has become a problem. The state and local governments are now involved. Construction machinery arrives, and it's driven into the sea to carve a channel for the whale's escape. It's a labour of love, and no one has lost hope. I feel uplifted, and I wish I were there to make a contribution. The mood is broken by a radio report from the ultralight pilot. He's finally spotted a pod of humpbacks near the entrance to Platypus Bay. The reaction aboard ship is instantaneous. In less than a moment, the Zodiac is launched, and I'm piling into it, my heart pounding. The distance as quickly as possible, and the ultralight indicates when to slow down so the whales don't feel they're being chased. was upon us. My imagination could never have anticipated the sensation of being amongst animals 600 times my own size. We put the motor into neutral to keep the prop from injuring the whales. We let them approach us, and we soon learned that they're every bit as curious as we are. I've never felt so insignificant in the company of animals. But in the close presence of these leviathans, one cannot help but be overwhelmed. One of the researchers on our expedition, Ross Isaacs, has devoted years to the study and underwater photography of the humpback whales, to document and understand their underwater behaviour. He has perfected a technique of attracting them by making sounds through his snorkel that resemble their own song.
I've developed this method of calling whales to avoid disturbing them. Whales can be distressed if you swim right up to them, so if the whales make the approach, that lets it happen on their terms. It's only the male humpbacks who sing, to serenade and seduce the females. So I usually end up attracting an inquisitive female. If she's already aroused, this can be a very tricky situation for me. Up close, I can sense some intangible connection when our eyes meet. You can actually feel the awareness and perception of these great creatures. Their size is matched only by their gentleness.
If eyes are the window to the soul, then the whales are surely of a divine order. This is delicate work requiring extreme sensitivity to the animals. Only those people experienced enough with humpbacks to understand their behaviour are granted a permit to swim with them. Suddenly, the intimacy is shattered. At first, we feel invaded, but there are no exclusive rights to this experience. It's well known that whale watching has uplifting benefits for people, but what effect it has on the whales is uncertain. Most of the tour boat operators conduct their excursions professionally, with consideration to the whale's requirements, but occasionally an amateur whale enthusiast will be ignorant of whale etiquette. Marine park rangers are the whale watchdogs, protecting the animals from overzealous human attention. Sometimes whales want and need to be alone. Our ultralight pilot has sighted other pods, so we head off to less crowded waters. The new pulse of humpbacks has been entering the bay over the last 2 hours. To me, these whales appear quite playful as they push tons of water through the ocean. But Ross keeps the boat well clear, explaining it's a fighting pod with 4 males battling for the right to escort the female. Suddenly, 2 of them surface right next to the boat. Then they're away and the sea erupts with the force of their battle. Their barnacle-encrusted heads are formidable weapons in this challenge to decide who among them will propagate the species. Ross and I try to back off, but it's too late. These giants cover so much distance so quickly, we're caught in their fight. We survive the impact and consider ourselves extremely lucky to be able to put the boat back in order. To the whale, it was just a light tap, since our soft-hulled craft bounced harmlessly off its head. The Leviathans carry on their battle, obviously indifferent to our close call. We head back to the Anna Christina, feeling humbled by the size and power of these creatures. My first day on the expedition is only half over, but already my experience with ocean whales has been nothing short of spectacular. And there is a new report on the young whale who ran aground. There are now more than 2,000 people on the scene. Again, the high tide wasn't high enough, but a peak high tide is forecast for tomorrow. The whale's condition is stable. No one questions how long the people and resources will last, and no expense is being spared. The usual paperwork and red tape are now being bypassed to authorize whatever resources are needed to save this beautiful animal. We finally make our way back to the Anna Christina, where there is yet another pod of inquisitive humpbacks playing around the ship. Again, the curiosity is mutual, and we share the last warm glow of daylight in their company. Living aboard ship in Platypus Bay is a sensuous experience. The evening meal is enhanced with the smells, sights and sounds of the seafaring life. And then we're serenaded by the haunting song of the humpback whale.
King Louis was the king of France before the revolution. Way home.
Shh, listen. It's coming through the hole. The whale songs last all through the night, then give way to the gentle ambience of Platypus Bay. By the second day of the expedition, I'm already accustomed to the feel of salt-dried skin and hair, and I relish the physical exertion of climbing the rigging and hoisting the sails. The atmosphere aboard this beautiful old vessel makes hard work an adventure. we're underway, we all have the same thing on our minds: finding whales. One of our whale researchers, Dr. Peter Corcoran, gains valuable insights from observing dolphins, which are the smallest of all the whales. Dolphins are the friendliest and most playful members of the whale family, making them easy to study. One can see why these fun-loving mammals have captured the hearts of so many people through the ages. The ancient poet Hulutika wrote, "Sublimer than the dolphin is nothing yet created."
I lure these cetaceans with food so I can study their behaviour. I make photo identifications of particular dolphins, and I get to know some of them individually. One or two of them will greet me like a friend when I return next season.
Peter's work reveals important information about the habits and movements of whale populations, enabling us to help the humpbacks recover from 30 years of commercial whale slaughter in Australia.
I monitor these whales throughout their breeding grounds, which extend north to the Great Barrier Reef. These waters are warm and sheltered by the reef system. This shelter is essential for the whales to safely give birth and suckle the young calves. They have to grow strong enough to make the difficult swim to Antarctica.
In this rare footage, a month-old calf appears quite large, until compared to its protective mother, who is never far away. The mother teaches her calf some basic humpback behaviour, such as breaching and tail slapping. At the end of the lesson, the diligent calf is rewarded with a whale-sized meal of milk, and then a much-needed rest. Safe nurturing of these vulnerable calves is the only hope for the resurgence of this endangered species. The mothers seek out these secluded waters, which offer shelter from rough seas, thanks to the nearby reef formations. This part of the Coral Sea has a rich diversity of colourful species, which are all interdependent, and the whales depend on this network for the safe birthing and rearing of their young. I've been diving in these waters for years, but it's only through Peter Corcoran's work that I now appreciate how significant the region is to the whales who breed here. The ecology of this area is not only beautiful, it is fragile. Any impact upon a major species here would cause a chain reaction among the others, which would inevitably affect the whales. Human impact on the marine environment is managed reasonably in many cases, but noise pollution can still be an intense disturbance to the sound-sensitive whales. I try to imagine what it's like for them, with propellers and steel hulls constantly passing through their once serene world, like planes landing over our homes. The serenity is now gone, even from Platypus Bay, one of the last remaining sanctuaries for migrating humpbacks. We're anchored off Fraser Island, the geographical basis for Platypus Bay. Here, specialised vegetation and animal life entice thousands of visitors each year. Some come to admire the delicate ecology of this unique place, while others arrive with a more down-to-earth purpose. The Whale Sanctuary in Platypus Bay has been created by the sweeping sandy shores of Fraser Island. Over thousands of years, the wind, sea and geography have combined to form some of the tallest sandhills on Earth. Over 120 kilometres long, this is the largest sand island in the world. Remarkably, these sandy deposits support towering rainforests and a diversity of animal species. Clear freshwater creeks create an unpolluted paradise for the island's specialised wildlife. This sand island is now recognised for its World Heritage value, and every year more tourists arrive. Human impact here could have a domino effect, eventually driving wildlife and whales from this once secluded refuge. On a nearby sand island, this harmless tourist resort was once the whaling capital of the East Coast. People now play tennis on what was once the slaughtering deck, where 7,000 whales were butchered in one decade. It wasn't guilt or a sudden burgeoning of humanity that finally stopped the massacre. They simply ran out of whales. Ironically, when the slaughter finally ended, the old whaling ships and remnants from the station were given an appropriate burial at sea. These old steel hulls and boilers now form an artificial reef, which supports life instead of destroying it. I take heart from seeing how quickly attitudes are changing in today's world, thanks largely to the understanding provided by scientists like Peter Corcoran. It wasn't so long ago that ships like the Anna Christina were used for killing whales, but now they're used as research vessels to find ways of reversing our past mistakes. I'm beginning to understand why everyone who encounters whales experiences a feeling of enchantment. Whales are playful, sophisticated social creatures like we are. And just like us, they have a level of consciousness that embraces more in life than simply surviving. With their friendly curiosity, they show an obvious longing to reach out and make contact. The whales are the biggest animals to ever live, and they are perhaps the greatest symbol of conservation in our time. For many, these are not just lofty sentiments. Real progress in conservation relies on science. Researchers like Mike Osmond are doing valuable work on this expedition to help the humpback whale make a comeback. Mike's collection of tail fluke photos has been gathered over many years. It shows that each whale has tail markings which are as unique as our fingerprints. Photo identification of individual animals is an important way to record their movements and life histories, assisting them to recover from near extinction. Robert Slade is a scientist working at the leading edge of whale research. His small arrow bounces harmlessly off the whale's back, and it collects a sample of the animal's skin. This tiny capsule holds a wealth of genetic secrets about the whale that can only be unlocked by a high-tech process known as DNA fingerprinting.
This kind of sophisticated fingerprinting is like taking a snapshot, showing 20 million years of an animal's evolution in detail.
In his small lab aboard the ship, Robert cuts up the animal's DNA molecules to form sections of genetic code.
These sections of genetic code are dyed, then placed into a gel inside an electric field. negatively charged pieces of DNA are drawn downwards through the electrified field. In about the time it takes to brew a pot of coffee, the sections of genetic code settle into a particular order. Ultraviolet light then reveals the animal's unique genetic patterns, or DNA fingerprints.
This DNA research has confirmed that the breeding populations of humpback whales are split up into groups. A smaller gene pool means their resurgence is much more vulnerable than their numbers might indicate. This expedition will make an important contribution to the whale's revival. Now scientists can learn all they need to from a small biopsy sample without butchering a live animal. This has eliminated any possible reason for so-called scientific whaling, which several countries still practice under the pretext of research. When a whale is killed, the sea turns red as the magnificent creature chokes to death in its own blood. And for what purpose? A collection of products to appease the vanity and aggression of supposedly superior beings. If whaling is allowed to resume for any reason, whales will again be reduced to cosmetics, pet food and fertiliser as they have in the past, with their blubber providing oil and glycerine for instruments of death. But now the business of slaughtering whales has been replaced by the business of watching them. So public awareness of these animals is making them popular. Come the winter season in the seaside resort of Hervey Bay, the humpback whale becomes a celebrity. During the height of the whale watching season, local tourists become susceptible to whale fever, and they perform many strange rituals in honour of the great humpback whales. The new public interest in whales is proving to be far greater than I would have imagined. I think the enduring commitment to save the stranded animal has surprised everyone. The whale now has captured the attention of the whole country through television news.
Well, I think it's really terrific to see Australians rallying and making such a wonderful effort to save this magnificent animal.
Well, I'll make a bet that it doesn't survive because it's too young. I've seen the young whales like that die on Northern Ireland.
Because the tides are receding from this tide, so the situation's going to get worse every tide. So really, this has got to be our best chance.
A special harness is made up to tow the whale out through the channel. A long rope is attached to the harness, and it's linked to a rescue vessel by forming a human chain. The rope is hooked up to the boat, and the harness is set. In 2 hours, the tide will provide the last chance to pull the animal to freedom. Aboard the Anna Christina, we all share the hope and excitement felt by the rescue team. As we continue our search for whales along the sheltered waters of Platypus Bay, a mood of optimism sweeps through us. On the open ocean, alone with the sea and the whales, I start to feel like the rest of the world doesn't exist. These graceful leviathans glide through their world with effortless poise. They enjoy dominion in their realm as we have superiority in ours. But their mastery is a far different kind. They exist in harmony with their environment, while we manipulate and dominate ours. The whales have a presence of mythical proportions. They live in a domain which to us is mysterious. They come out of the deep, we glimpse them for brief moments of their time, then they vanish into their world beneath the waves. But these glimpses allow us to appreciate the grace and subtlety of their body language, a visual language in which every movement of the tail or fin is an eloquent expression. And we are left to ponder what it all might mean in this special language that we're only just beginning to understand. Our ultralight pilot has sighted what we're all here for, a pod of humpbacks in a performing mood.
Okay, let's go.
Ross loads the camera and we head off for another encounter. Again, we feel the adrenaline, hoping their spectacular display will last until we arrive. The humpbacks are the most acrobatic of all the great whales. Interpreting their behaviour is the first step in learning to observe them without intruding. The whale's 4-ton tail is their greatest source of power. It's lifted, twisted, flapped or slapped to advertise the animal's presence to other humpbacks. Up close, the tail is an imposing weapon, and subtle cocking is all that's needed to signal other whales, or people, to keep their distance. Whales are tactile creatures. They often swim side by side, touching each other with their sensitive pectoral fins. Mothers use these enormous fins as caressing hands to stroke their young calves. These massive flippers distinguish humpbacks from the other great whales. They're almost a third the length of their body. Weighing 2 tons each, they can crash down like cymbals on the water's surface or spread like wings as they fly through the ocean. These animals spend 70% of their time submerged, so most of their behaviour occurs underwater. But their forays to the surface always leave me wanting an encore. A close encounter with a humpback leaves impressions ranging from the amusing to the sublime. Its head is dotted with sensory nodules the size of golf balls, creating its distinctive resemblance to a giant gherkin. But the overriding impressions are those of grandeur, of power, and of majestic grace. With 3 powerful thrusts of its tail, a whale can propel its 40-ton mass into the air in the ultimate of marine acrobatics, the bridge. The breach is often the final punctuation in a series of other behaviours. Scientists are still striving to explain these displays, but others are content to simply regard it as one of the more enigmatic qualities that adds to the mystique of these animals. And once again, where the whales are active, playful dolphins show up for some fun. Their charm is irresistible. Plutarch wrote, "To the dolphin beyond all others, nature has given what the best philosophers seek, friendship for no advantage." The dolphins speed off in search of other fun, leaving me alone in the ocean, simply enjoying the sensation of buoyancy. I hear a distant, familiar sound. A male is broadcasting his complex symphony. He draws closer, his haunting tones reverberating through my body. Suddenly, all is quiet. I imagine the singer pausing for his next chorus. But then he materializes out of the blue haze only meters away. His eye widens as he rolls over like some playful dinosaur, slowly maneuvering closer to ponder my insignificance. He circles around me, inspecting me first with one eye, then the other. And as his large, bulging eye connects with mine in some strange recognition of consciousness, we both shiver with excitement. I reach out to the great creature in a gesture of trust, and to my complete amazement, he places his 2-ton fin in my hand. It lasts only for a fleeting moment, but I'm left quivering with delight. He looks at me one last time, then disappears into the deep. My life has been enriched with an added dimension, a personal encounter so fulfilling. Only Ross and a handful of other people could really understand the experience. What people sacrifice to save this whale gives me hope for our future. The rescue is a success, and this whale will live because of a new attitude toward life, a long overdue respect for the right of other species to exist. In learning how to care for these animals, and for nature itself, we are simply learning how to ensure our own survival on Earth.
Nå tok et vedtak på å legge ned en næring.
If you don't have any art, you're pretty much lost.
Hvis båten du kommer med legger til kai, og det hagler og snør sånn i midt under meg, ingen tvil, så du her i Stavanger. Hvis skader du går i fotler i sang, det pub på hvert hjørne, da føler